I recently saw a okay statistic, in my opinion, when it comes to Onyx, and let me explain what it is, even though nothing I say is financial advice. So Onyx, quite recently, they made this post saying how they're almost at 6 billion XCN that was locked up basically on the Onyx app. In which case, at first glance, it seemed like a pretty impressive number, but if we consider it and compare it, I should say, to the maximum supply of XCN, that's around like 8.7%. Which again, people like to say, okay, that's not such a good ratio. Well, that's why I think it's an okay statistic, right? I don't think it's the best, but I don't think it's the worst either. And again, it's not that bad. I mean, again, around 8.7% basically of the maximum supply of XCN is currently allegedly being locked up when it comes to the Onyx app. So when I take a look at something like that, I don't think it's that bad at the end of the day. It's not the best ratio, but it's not the worst either. So, yeah, it is what it is. However, at the same time, people like to say, who really cares about this? Well, in theory, right, if the ratio were to be higher in terms of what is locked up, I think it would create a little bit more stability for a project inherently because, again, it could make it less volatile and just, again, creates a more stable environment. But you know what? Even though this isn't the best, I don't mind because I still like XCN anyways. I mean, we have to keep in mind, there's still around 145,000 holders. Like, it's not that XCN just completely got forgotten about like that, even despite this quite significant price pullback that we've seen for quite a while now. However, at the same time, XCN being around 52 times lower than 25 cents, again, it's not the best because very recently it was around 50 times, right? Now it's around 52 times. But again, I'm trying to keep it consistent by dollar cost averaging once a month, which really beyond that, I can't do anything else when it comes to XCN. I mean, I can't demand it to do this or do that or whatever. But I feel like as long as the fundamentals are in place, I'm just going to wait because what is a pattern I've seen time and time again when it comes to a project sometimes doing pretty good? It's usually a good community, which arguably I think XCN has at around 145,000 holders, even as of right now. Not to mention good fundamentals, which I think Onyx has. It's a top five project in terms of popularity within the niche of global trade and finance within this space. So it already has those boxes ticked. The only thing I haven't seen is a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. But as long as the fundamentals are there, again, historically we've seen some of them do pretty okay during a time when the sentiment does change. Usually when those key traits are there, right? Again, a strong community and good fundamentals. So I already see that when it comes to Onyx. The missing ingredient seems to be a hypothetical altcoin season. Maybe, but we'll wait and see. It's like, for instance, I think when it comes to like property, I think location matters a lot, right? I think it's kind of the same principle when it comes to a project. I think the fundamentals do matter a lot. It's like, for instance, I remember I visited my friend in Nashville, Tennessee, and he used to live in a place called Encore. And I just thought it was so amazing because if you think about it, if someone lives in Nashville or something, I think they'll know what I mean. So if you go outside of Encore, you just walk a little bit, right? Next thing you know, you're in Broadway and you're beside the Bridgestone Arena. And then beside that, you have like an Apple store, which I thought was so cool. And the amazing thing about Encore is that literally below, there's a Jimmy John's, right? So there's a Jimmy John's below and it's so close to Broadway. I mean, that's like the perfect combo for me, I feel like, if I did live there. But I'm saying it would just be pretty cool. So I just thought like that right there kind of reminds me of Onyx. Onyx reminds me of Encore, right? It's like, I feel like the fundamentals are there when it comes to Onyx, and then I feel like the fundamentals are there in terms of a property when it comes to Encore. But yeah, besides that point, that's just kind of the mentality that I do have. But of course, Encore is an apartment, but I'm saying this is just the way to take a look at it. So when it comes to Onyx, I feel like when it comes to this as a project, sure, it's not the most interesting, not the flashiest, not the coolest, but as long as it can maintain that top five position in terms of its own niche of global chain finance heading into a hypothetical altcoin season, what else does it really need to do beyond that, right? It doesn't need to overtake Ripple or Stellar. Let's just forget about that. It's never going to do that, but if it could just maintain that positioning, why not? It's like, does every single NFL quarterback need to become better than Tom Brady? No, that's like sometimes once in a generational type of talent, right? Sometimes being top 10 or something like that is already really good. So when it comes to Onyx, I think that, if it could just maintain its position, I wouldn't complain actually. And even if it were to go to 25 cents, considering its current circulating supply, the market cap at that point would be around 9 billion. That's like not such a outlandish figure in my perspective. Like a project, in my opinion, right, doesn't need to become the best of all time sometimes to be able to hypothetically have a market cap like that. I mean, that's around 9 times lower than a market cap Dogecoin at one point reached back in 2021, by the way. But yeah, besides that point, when I take a look at Onyx overall, sure, the main thing that they're kind of working towards as of right now is the mainnet of their layer one blockchain, which is called Goliath. Again, there's a lot of layer one blockchains out there, and especially if we take a look at the Stellar blockchain, of course, I don't think Goliath could ever overtake that, but at the same time, sometimes people do like options, right? There's a reason why in malls sometimes there's so many stores. It's because I think sometimes people like options, arguably. This is just my personal hypothetical though, but I'm saying it's like, people usually just like options. Sure, I mean, Stellar arguably in terms of the fundamentals and everything, people like to say, oh, it's arguably better. And I could get that argument. It's just because Stellar is more established and all this, but at the same time as well, Onyx, I think, doesn't really lose out, right? I mean, what it kind of may lose out in terms of the fundamentals in some cases, arguably, I think it kind of makes up for it in a hypothetically speaking lower market cap, which may seem counterintuitive, but, again, XLM is very massive, but just because of its massive market cap, sometimes during a hypothetical altcoin season, what could it really do, right? Just because it's already so massive. It's like, for instance, if Bitcoin were to go to 200 grand, that's not even like a 5x away. You know what I mean? But besides that point, if I take a look at XCN, I think sometimes the kind of same principle applies. In which case, yeah, it's not the biggest project out there, but it is around 52 times lower than 25 cents. That's the way you take a look at it. And again, it's around 52 times lower than a 9 billion market cap. XLM is not around 50 times lower than a 9 billion market cap, but I'm just saying, right? Even though, again, I still believe in that, but at the same time, I also like believing in projects too that have a smaller market cap just because, sometimes during a hypothetical altcoin season, we've seen kind of a journey that's sometimes arguably kind of impressive, but it doesn't always happen. We'll wait and see. But I'm just saying, XCN at one point in 2025 had a market cap of around a billion. So it was just around 9 times lower than that, basically. And does anyone think that we saw an altcoin season in 2025? Personally, for me, I don't, right? I don't think I've seen an altcoin season in 2025, and I saw XCN do that. So personally, for me, if I saw that not too long ago, what could happen if there was an actual altcoin season? That's why I still have the hypothetical idea, or thought, I should say, of 25 cents on my mind. But even besides that as well, we have to consider this. I think when it comes to a 1 billion market cap, really, if we take a look at XCN as of right now, XCN is over 5 times lower than that, by the way. So if XCN just went back to where it once was in 2025, I'm not even saying an altcoin season in this vacuum example, right? In this make-believe example, I'm saying let's just ignore an altcoin season for a second and let's just think about if it just goes back to a 1 billion market cap. It's already over 5 times lower than that. That's the thing. So if XCN just went back to where it was, like again, we're over 5 times lower than that. Bitcoin is not over 5 times lower than its all-time high, by the way. And that's its all-time high. But besides that point, this is just kind of my perspective. So there's a reason why I'm still waiting, even though I don't have to, but I'm curious and I just want to wait and see what happens. And I've been holding for, at this point, right, over a year. So yeah, I'm just not going to want to leave like that. But personally, this is just my mindset, not telling anyone to do anything. However, I want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll see you all in the next one. I'll be sure to make more updated videos when it comes to Onyx moving forward. So, again, hopefully I'll see you all there. I'm out. Peace. Bye.